You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. A group of current and former Microsoft employees briefly occupied part of the company's Redmond campus yesterday to protest the relationship of the tech giant and Israel's military. The protest was led by a group called No Azure for Apartheid. Their name refers to a cloud computing service that has been contracted for use by Israel's government. The demonstration follows recent reporting that Israel uses Azure as a mass surveillance tool against Palestinians, one that has shaped military operations in Gaza. Yesterday's protest is the latest action taken by Microsoft employees in speaking out against the company's business practices. Todd Bishop is the co-founder of GeekWire, and he's been covering these protests for months now, including Tuesday's short-lived encampment. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Libby. It's good to be here.
So what was happening at the Microsoft headquarters in Redmond yesterday? What did you see and hear from people there?
Well, for people who haven't been on Microsoft's new East Campus, which is where the original buildings once were and it's been redeveloped, there's this big central area. It's almost like a college quad, ironically. And I don't think Microsoft ever envisioned it being used for this purpose, but the group, No Azure for Apartheid, took over a portion of this quad, the plaza, and basically built a camp in front of the Microsoft sign. And the way they were positioning themselves and the press release they put out, I thought that perhaps this was going to be something where they were in it for the long haul, for days. But as soon as the Redmond police came out and explained that they were trespassing and if they remained, they would be arrested, they did retreat to the sidewalk. But effectively, they're really trying to bring attention to what they see as Microsoft's role, its complicity, in their view, in human rights abuses in Gaza against Palestinians, and essentially Microsoft's role in providing technology to the Israel government and the Israeli military, facilitating what they see as human rights abuses.
If you had to count or give us an estimate, how many people do you think were involved, and who are we talking about? Are these current employees, former employees, demonstrators from outside?
It was a mix. If I were to give you a count, I'd say it was somewhere in the realm of 36, more than 30, less than 50. They made a big presence, though. They made their presence known, very loud, lots of signs. They called this the liberated zone. They put up a negotiations table with a banner that read, "Microsoft execs come to the table." And, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wow, wouldn't it be completely surreal and just a complete reversal if Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, walked out and engaged. That would have been the reporter's dream to see. Of course, that's not going to happen. But
instead, it was Redmond police who came to the table. Yeah,
it was exactly. And I should say, as somebody who watches some of these public auditor YouTube videos, I was actually really impressed with the way that the Redmond police de-escalated things. Some of the folks afterward were a little bit hyperbolic, I thought, in their explanation of what happened. I mean, it was a very civil conversation. They said, hey, look, here's the deal. Private property, Microsoft doesn't want you here, and this is what's going to happen if you remain, your choice. And I thought in this world of viral TikToks and YouTube clips, I thought the Redmond police did an admirable job of avoiding that.
So No Azure for Apartheid has protested past Microsoft events, including Microsoft's 50th anniversary celebration. Your interview with Brad Smith was actually interrupted, and that led you to end up engaging with some of the protesters and doing some interviews with them in the past on the GeekWire podcast, which I really recommend people check out. What is No Azure for Apartheid asking for from Microsoft, Todd?
They want Microsoft to end its contracts with the Israeli military and the Israeli government. And I'm realizing I didn't answer your earlier question, Libby. This group includes current and former Microsoft employees, plus some people from outside who are interested in the topic. And that full stop is what they want. They believe that there is really no way for Microsoft to be assured that its technology, its Azure cloud platform, is not being used in what they view as a genocide. And for that reason, they are trying to get Microsoft employees to say to the company, hey, we don't want our work being used for this purpose. And it's important to say that Microsoft says it complies with its human rights commitments, its contracts with the Israel Ministry of Defense are standard commercial agreements, and they're governed by its terms of service and AI code of conduct. A past investigation that Microsoft commissioned found no evidence of any use of its technology in human rights abuses. But they also acknowledged at the same time that they don't have visibility into how their technology is used on private servers or in conjunction with other cloud services.
This most recent wave of attention on Microsoft kind of kicked off with reporting by The Guardian and Israeli Palestinian news organizations that detailed what they found to be the Azure platform being used, the limitless storage allowed on Azure by the Israeli cybersecurity unit to store phone calls, millions of phone calls of Palestinians. And the reporting indicates that that information was used in military plans on attacks on Gaza. So we know that Microsoft has said that they don't have visibility here. I know that in the past, Microsoft said, quote, that they found no evidence to date that Microsoft's Azure and AI technologies have been used to target or harm people in the conflict in Gaza. How has Microsoft responded since this recent reporting by The Guardian, Todd?
This is really interesting. This was a statement last week by Microsoft that I don't think I've heard before since, covering the company for, more than 20 years, this kind of response to a report. They said Microsoft appreciates that The Guardian's recent report raises additional and precise allegations that merit a full and urgent review. This is in response specifically to what you're alluding to here and referencing where The Guardian and others reported that the contents of phone calls, or at least details about phone calls from mass surveillance, were being stored on Azure servers. And Microsoft says it will release publicly the results of this review that it's commissioned to look into these reports. And so this, to me, was a real turning point. And in talking with some of the organizers of No Azure for Apartheid, they would contend that if not for the pressure that they're putting on the company, this type of concession would not have taken place.
Wow. What do you think is next here, Todd, for the protests and for Microsoft itself and its response?
For the protests, I think that they see a window here to keep going. That's my sense of it. And I don't think they're going to end their pressure on Microsoft. This new escalation yesterday was something completely new. As you said, we'd seen them interrupt events before, but never before had we seen them try a temporary encampment on campus. They've also taken some actions that were, pretty out there in terms of going to one specific Microsoft executive's house earlier this month and protesting outside this executive's house in Seattle. So I don't see them letting up. In terms of Microsoft's response, I do think you're going to see in the coming months, perhaps, or maybe weeks, an outcome from this latest investigation. I don't think that what the company does will be a full and complete ending of its technology relationships, its contracts with the Israeli government and military. I do think you might see them perhaps end their specific contract with this one unit of the Israel Ministry of Defense that would be responsible for this kind of surveillance if the review finds that Azure was being used improperly for this kind of surveillance.
Todd Bishop is the co-founder of GeekWire. Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you, Libby.
And you're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. Before we move on, we just got an update from KUOW reporter Monica Nicholsberg because pro-Palestinian protesters are back on the Microsoft campus again today to call attention to the company's contracts with the Israeli military. And Monica Nicholsberg just filed this quick update for us.
I'm here on Microsoft's campus, and about 30 protesters rode in on bicycles, wearing masks and T-shirts protesting the war in Gaza. And now they're posted up in front of a summer market that Microsoft is holding for its employees with a sign that says Liberated Zone. There are security guards surrounding them, keeping employees from going through, but the protesters have been grabbing some of the barricades they set up and running off with them. So it's a slightly chaotic scene.
Monica adds that just a few minutes later that some protesters are beginning to leave the campus already. So we are unsure about how long this is going to last over there in Redmond. We're going to continue to update you here on KUOW as the situation progresses. Thanks for listening to Soundside. This show is only possible because listeners support us. If you're able to give right now, please check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.